Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Almost Innocent, a cooperative deduction game. And disclaimer that I was given a review copy of this one. Cooperative deduction is often a favorite type of game for me and my family. How does Almost Innocent do in the genre? Let's find out and get to the list. So for my number 5, I'm focusing on the scenarios and storyline in the game, and for my taste, this is a mix. On the positive side, the scenarios do what their job is well. They are slowly teaching you the game, ramping up the complexity, and adding in the different modular elements that I'll discuss more in a second. And the scenario is a bit of a misnomer because you can really play any of these over and over again. They have a randomized setup of what the actual clues are, so it's not like you learn the keys and can't go back to one. But on the negative side, they try to tie everything together with like this little story of how you're solving the crime that was committed where someone impersonated you, or not impersonated, set you up for the fall. But it's weird because each game is like you solving a mystery, but then nothing actually happens. You just go to like the next little thing. And they even have like a branching ending and like different results for each of the characters. It's a nice effort, but it reminds me of The Crew, where you sort of have these ancillary little like narrative things that you read, and they don't really add much of the experience, at least for me. Maybe others will love them. But my number 4 connects right to my number 5, and those are the modular elements you can use to make the game more or less difficult, the things that are unlocked as you go through the scenarios. And these are also kind of a mix for me. On the positive side, I like all of them. You get a different power for each character that's pretty cool. You get the queen, who's actually blocking your ability to give clues on certain areas, but then she moves around randomly. And they also give you some nice difficulty levers in each of the scenarios to give yourself more or fewer clues, to have more or fewer chances to guess wrong when you finally get to the end. The only reason this is a mix for me, and I guess it leans pro, is that I don't feel like any of these things change up the game that much, which is fine. It stays straightforward. But when I compare it to other things like, I don't know, The Crew with its scenarios, or for a closer game, Paint the Roses with the expansion modules, I think those really change up the deduction quite a bit more, whereas this just kind of makes things slightly more complicated and tricky. But my number 3 is looking at the final reveal when you're ready to beat the game, and it's a full pro for my taste, so you finish filling out your board with the nothingness that I filled out here apparently, and you've got your guess for what everything is, although usually you're not going to know all the solutions. And then one by one, you guess what each person's scene is. You guess what each person's crime is. And each time you get it wrong, you have to use one of these hammers. Don't have any hammers left. Whoops, you lose. So it's tense. It's exciting. In our plays, even when we've been 100% sure we had everything right, it still felt like maybe we might have something wrong. So it was still a little bit scary. And also it's cool that in higher player count games, as you hear people guess things, it might help you realize things that you hadn't nailed down yet. So you can still be deducing as you do this final reveal. I just like it as a way to end each game. Now for my number 2, I'm looking at the core logic in the game, which is eliminating all the options until you find the correct card for your solution. It's kind of like you're playing Simultaneous Cooperative Clue. And this one I'm going to call a pro with player counts 3 and above, and a mix with 2 players. And how it basically works is each player has one of each card type that they're holding for another player, and they're answering clues about them. So you're finding out things like how many of your things are in a given column or row, or that yours is like definitely in this row, but it could be that one or that one. And it's consistently fun to narrow things down and figure out exactly what your things could be. But with 2 players, it's kind of a zero-sum game. Everything either applies to you or them, so the clues are kind of obvious and I think not as interesting. But with 3, 4, or 5 players, as you're hearing all these different clues being given by different people, you're getting a lot of little details. And yes, it can be a little tough to track them just on these boards, but if you can figure out your own method for doing so, you can really make a lot of clever deductions. But now we get to my number 1 point about the game, and I love this. This is the beauty of this game entirely, and those are the simultaneous clues. So how it works is each player in turn will give 1 clue about a row or column, and once one person uses a row or column, nobody else can use it. And they're asking the person next to them who's holding their clue cards, hey, how many of my clues are in this row? That's the number 1. Or hey, one specific type. Is my crime in this column, which are the yellow ones in this case? And the person either responds with the number or a yes or no. But then here's the genius of the game, especially at higher player counts. The next player asks the exact same question, how many of mine are in this row, to the player after them. And the next player asks it to the player after them. So basically every single player is going to simultaneously ask the exact same question that the first person started. And again, this is really the genius of the game, the entire reason I think it's great that this game exists, because I'm trying to do a lot of things all at once. I see that, your clue that I'm trying to give you is right here, so I want to ask something about this row so that you'll know more about your clue. But ooh, I also see that I could eliminate a lot of stuff for myself, so I also want to ask for myself. But ooh, I might just see that there's a ton of this type in here in general, so it might be useful for everybody around the table to know whether their offender is one of these three or not. So you're really like thinking several levels at once with each of your clues. It reminds me again of something like Hanabi or Paint the Roses, where it's cooperative deduction and everyone is consistently involved. And man, I just love it. I think it is a blast, especially, like I said, for higher player counts than 2. So overall, you might want to check out Almost Innocent if you like cooperative deduction like I do. I think it stands up there with some of the best in the genre. And I think you'll especially enjoy this one if you like to avoid downtime. It keeps everybody involved really well. But on the other hand, you might want to skip this one if you don't like deduction, because that's all there is, especially if you don't like simpler deduction, like sort of clue level. That's sort of what you're working with here. And also, if you want a huge variety of modules and variety in the game, it's pretty good, but you are still doing basically the same thing each time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.